Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mustard Seed 7. If you are new here, you may be wondering, what is this channel about? Well, this channel is about reaching people in my community, people who have been through what I've been through or still going through what I've been through. The aim is to encourage using the Word of God or wherever the Lord leads. I just want to take this opportunity as well. Thank everyone who have been supporting. It's been a year since I started this ministry, and it's been a rough one, but God is good all the time. And so I want to thank God as well for the people who these videos have reached and touched and are encouraged after listening to them. So thank you everyone, and if you're new here, you are welcome and thank you for joining. Okay, God bless you. Today I want to talk about faith in the midst of the storm. Sometimes we are in a place where we feel like we are alone. Have you ever been there? Where it feels like no one sees, no one cares, no one understands? It's a hard place to be. But I promise you, even in the darkest moment of your life, when you are in a storm and it feels like you are hanging on by a thread, God is in the midst of that storm. And because he's in the storm, in that very storm that you're going through, you can never be lost to him. He sees you. Even in that raging storm, you are held in the palm of his hand. Trust me, he saw the storm before it reached you. And he has already worked out the provision you need to get through it all. Remember, you are his child, and nothing or no one can snatch you out of his hand. God is still worthy of your trust. No matter what you're going through, no matter how the storm is raging, no matter how rough the sea may get, trust God in the storm, because he have you in the palm of his hand. Do you remember the story of Joseph? How his brothers hated him and they put him in that pit. They throw him in a pit and left him there. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a pit, but just imagine you in a pit and you cannot get out because there's no way out. There's no ladder. There's no rope for you to pull on. There's no way out. But God have a way of comforting our hearts in the midst of these storms, in the midst of these troubles, in the midst of these, hurricanes. God have a way to comfort our heart and give us that peace. And so Joseph had that peace. Joseph trusts God in that storm, I'm sure. And then when God took him out of that, when he got out of that, then his brothers sold him. And when they sold him, thinking that they're selling him for the worse, it turned out to be for the good for him. But the devil didn't like that. The devil wanted to destroy that for Joseph personally. And so therefore, the devil used Potiphar's wife to tempt him, to cause him to sin. But even though that was a new storm coming up, and even though he have gone through some already, he didn't stop trusting God. He decided, I am not going to sin against God. I'm not. So he back off his shirt and he run for his life because he did not want to sin against God. He still trusts God. So you can trust God in the midst of the storm. You can still trust God because God have you. He have your back. He have you in the palm of his hand. There is faith. You can find faith in the midst of any hurricane that you're going through. Isaiah 43 verse 1 and 2 reads, Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not burn, nor shall the flames scorch you. When Joseph was going through the water, and he went through many after that. It wasn't just the pit, then Potiphar's wife. He ended up going to prison. He ended up going to prison even though he didn't yield to her temptation. So he didn't have a bed of rose, but in all that, he trusted God. So in all his rivers, in all his fire, in all his water that is coming up on him, he still trusts God. You can still trust God in your water. You can still trust God in your fire. You can still trust God in your river. You can still trust God in the hurricane, because God have got you. He's got your back. Psalms 37:5. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. So in Isaiah 43, it reads, and the Lord was saying that when you go through the water, when you go through the fire, through the flood, through the river, he didn't say, I'm going to take you out of it. He said, I'll go with you through it. I'll be with you through it. But what he's also saying is that we need to commit our ways to him. We need to trust in him, and he shall bring it to pass. So whatever he promised to do for us in our storms, in our waters, in our rivers, in our hurricanes, he's saying, trust him. He's saying, commit your ways to him in the midst of all that, and he will bring it to pass. You can have faith in the midst of your storm. He did it for Joseph, and he can do it for you. I know trusting God can be, can seem impossible at times. Or this storm that we are about to go into, like Joseph was about to go into a storm, or the storm that you are going through right now, battling through, he knew that this storm was coming. So trusting him in the midst of it can seem impossible, because we are feeling like he knew this was coming, but he did nothing to save us. But what is so hard to see from that moment in our perspective is why we had to endure the storm. Trust me, I have been through a few storms, and I find myself sobbing sometimes and asking God, why? But I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, that there is always a reason when it seems impossible. It's like, okay, so you know I'm going to go through this, but you allow it to happen? You are watching me go through it? There's a reason. There's always a reason behind these storms and why God allowed it. There are some storms that could have hit you and God didn't allow it. And you need to know this. There are so many storms that the Lord knows you cannot handle, and he shields you from that. So many. Do you remember Job? Job went through a lot. Job had a serious storm in his life. That storm was, he lost everything in that storm. He lost everything. He lost his children, lost his wealth. He lost his health. He had boils from the crown of his head and to the sole of his feet. I don't know if any of you ever had a boil or had boils and see how painful those are. Job had those. People who have HS would understand how painful boils are, to have more than one at the same time in the same place at times. It's very painful, let alone having so many boils all over your body. Job went through that, and Job, even though he was going through all that, Job said, although he slay me, yet will I trust him. Because Job knew that God had him in the palm of his hand in the midst of that storm. His wife didn't understand it. His wife couldn't stand it because she didn't understand Christ. She didn't understand God and what God is doing. And she probably wasn't hearing from God. So therefore she came to him and she said, why? Why are you still alive? Why don't you just curse God and die? You lost everything. You lost your children. You lost your cattle. Now you're sick. And you look helpless. Just curse God and die. But he said, no, you spoke so foolishly. You sound like a foolish woman. How could you say that? Although he slay me, yet will I trust him. Because he's a God in the midst of the water. He's a God in the midst of the storm. He's a God in the midst of the hurricane. Hurricane is worse than storm. Have you ever been in a hurricane? I have. I have been in a literal hurricane. Hurricane Gilbert. I was literally in it when it was happening at one stage. And it wasn't a nice experience. Because when you're very light and the wind is taking you to and fro, you're scared. Plus you see zinc and all sorts flying while the wind is blowing. And I could see my brother, the wind was taking him away. I thought he was running, but no, the wind was taking him. So it can be like that in your life. Hurricane Gilbert. It was an hurricane. It wasn't just a storm. Yeah. So God had us. God kept us through that literal storm. And it's the same way he can keep us in our troubles, our troubled storm, in our, problems that we're going through with our health, with our finance, with different issues that we face that get us down, that make us feel as if there is no God, as if there is no way out, as if we are alone. Feel it just seems so impossible. Everything becomes impossible. God is in the midst of all that. And Job proved that, because Job held on to his integrity in spite of. And at the end, Job was victorious. All these storms that came upon us, God knew they were coming, and he still allowed us to go through them. But remember, he promised to keep us through them. He done it for a reason. As for Job, he did that for a reason. Satan had to ask for permission to touch Job. But God knew Job and knew that Job will still trust him in the midst of it all. And so therefore, God trusts Job with this process, and so he gave Satan the authority to do so. And Job did not fail. He did not fail that test. It was a test, and he did not fail it. So we can also be victorious if we trust God in the midst of our storm. Do you know how many Christians today that are facing different struggles, different storms? Health-wise, people are struggling health-wise. Serious health issue, serious financial issue, serious problems that they came across or come upon them. But they still trust God. They still pray. They still worship. They still, don't get me wrong, sometimes you need to take a step back from certain things so you can seek God, so you can get into his secret place. In that secret place, so you can stay there, cut out the noise, cut out what's going on, and just humble yourself in the storm. You know how many people going through that, Christians, people of God, children of God, that are people who have faith in God, that are still going through these things, like Job, like Joseph. And they are struggling, but they are keeping the faith. So you're not alone. I'm just here to tell you that God can still keep you in the midst of the storm, and you can still trust God in the midst of any storm that you're going through. Psalms 91 talk about, if you dwell in the secret place, you shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And verse 9 said, because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place, no evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. Not in some of your ways, all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. When you're going through your waters and your floods and your rivers and your fires, if you dwell in the secret place and abide under his wings, then he will give his angels charge over you, because you're going to be under his refuge. And if during those times you feel like you want to give up, like you want to pack it in, you want to throw the towel in, he's saying he gave angels, not one, angels, charge over you. So just in case you slip, just in case you slide, before you hit the ground, there's angels to bear you up, to catch you, lest you dash your foot against a stone, lest you slip, lest you slide, lest you decide to give up, lest you decide, I don't want to do this anymore. There is angels to catch you. That's one of the reasons I believe why a lot of people who plan to backslide, who decide to give up because of what they're going through, they haven't given up. They can't give up because the Lord have got angels watching over them. They've got, the Lord have given angels charge over these souls so that they will not give up. Yeah, verse 14. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble, any trouble. No matter how small it is, no matter how simple it may seem, the fact that your heart trouble you, the Lord said he will be with you in trouble. Because remember, no matter how small it is, the fact that it concerns you, it also concerns him. And he said, I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. That's how the Lord wants to deal with us. That's how the Lord wants to take us through this journey. When we fall into storms, when we fall into troubles, when we fall into hurricanes, when we find ourselves into these things. As for me, I've got different issues that keep arising. I've been into different storms before and still going through storms, but I trust God in the storm. I've got, my health has been attacked for the past months now. I've got 4 to 5 different issues, health issues dealing with because I've been attacked. When you're doing God work, when you're loving God, when you're doing stuff for God, the enemy is always after you. You have to always remember that. But I'm not giving up. I'm loving God in the midst of this storm that I'm going through. I'm trusting him in the midst of this storm that I'm going through because Jesus never fell and he refused to do that. So in the midst of your battles that you're going through, in the midst of the rivers, in the midst of the floods, in the midst of the fire and all the fiery darts that the enemy is throwing at you, you don't give up. You don't lose hope. You don't lose faith. You trust God in the midst of it all. And like I said before, you can always take a step back because sometimes it becomes a bit too much when you have a lot going on. So you can't get to hear what the Lord is saying in the midst of it all because there's too much going on. So the storm is raging. The hurricane is whistling. In the midst of the storm, when I was in that storm, physically in that storm, I heard the wind whistling. It's coming so fast. I could hear the whistle of the wind coming. And we got scared because we were in the midst of it. We were it calmed down when it started and we went back to get some stuff, trying to beat it before it come again, and it catch us on the way back from our home. So I hear the storm whistling. I hear the wind coming. So that's how it is in our life, in our everyday life. It's like the storm rages, but the Lord is saying, if you keep yourself in the secret place, take a step back from all the noise, all the hustle and bustle that's going on, and stay in the secret place. He have you just like he had Joseph, just like he had Job. He have you. And all the other guys, he have you like he had David. Listen, God was with David from the beginning to the end. You see how many times David had to hide so he doesn't get killed by his enemy? That was his storm. Then he had another storm where he had to where he went to war, and when he came back, everything was gone. The children of his men, the wife of his men, his wife, and all their belongings, all their cattle was gone. But what did he do? Did he give up? Did he run? No. He spoke to the Lord and he said, Lord, what do you think I should do? Should I go after them? If I go after them, will I succeed? And the Lord answered him and said, you go after them. And when you go after them, you shall recover everything. Everything. And he's the same God today. He's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. So I learn to trust God in the midst of it all. I'm learning to trust him and stay in the secret place so I can abide under his shadow. I'm learning to continue to pour my love upon him, because he said, because he has set his love upon me, because you set your love upon him, he's saying, therefore I will deliver you. And he's saying that he will deliver you out of trouble. He will take care of any problem that you have. He said, I have called you by your name. God knows your name. He knows you. He said, when you pass through the waters, fear not. I know you. I've got you. So do not give up. Do not be dismayed, because you've got angels that he gave charge over you. Not one, but there's a few angels that he gave charge over you. So when you feel discouraged, when you feel like you can't make it, when you feel like no one sees, no one cares, no one understands, and it feels impossible to trust God in the storm, remember, when you feel like you want to just throw the towel in, there's angels there waiting to catch you, lest you do that. Lest you throw the towel in, lest you give up, lest you walk away. There's angels there to catch you. So you've been covered. You've been covered and you've been overcome by the blood of the Lamb. All right. So I just want to encourage you today. Whatever you're going through, don't give up. I've been in some dark places, and it does feel impossible to trust God at times. It does feel, but when you seek him, when you go into that secret place, meaning you're praying, you're seeking him, you're talking to him, he tell you what to do. He talk back to you and he tell you what to do. Whether you need to call for help, whether you need to do something for yourself to get yourself sorted, because you can't stay in the one place all the time. You have to move. You're going to get over it. You have to get through it with God, because he will signpost you to the right people, to the right person, to the right help, the right resources, the right places that you need to get help from. He will signpost you to the right source, to the right people to get help, whether it's prayer, whether it's physical help, whether it's direction, whether it's encouragement, whatever help you need, the Lord will provide it for you once you give him that chance to help you by, setting your love upon him and dwelling in the secret place and abiding under the shadow of his wings. Because he's ready waiting to take care of you. He's ready waiting to sort you out. He's ready waiting. Because he's not leaving. He's doing exactly what he did for Job, for Joseph, for David. He's doing exactly what he did. He hasn't changed. God hasn't changed. He's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. He never changed. When we change our minds, when we decide that we don't want to know anymore, he's still there. He's still there waiting. He's a loving God. And so, yes, you can have faith in the midst of your storm. You can still trust God in the midst of your storm. God bless you as you continue to trust in God and not give up. I hope this video encouraged you this evening, and I pray that your souls will be blessed when you hear it, and that it will help you to go through your storms, your hurricanes, your fire, your waters, your rivers, by the grace of God. Every blessing, if you can help one person along the way, your life will never be in vain. Catch you next time.